It was the 1st of December, 1943. Private George Ritchie was stationed at Camp Barkley, Texas. He had just been chosen to attend the Medical College of Virginia and was waiting to be sent to Richmond to begin classes. A week before he was to board the train, he checked into a hospital due to an upper respiratory infection. The day before his scheduled departure, he felt his condition worsening, but tried desperately to prove that his health was satisfactory. It was the last train out of Camp Barkley that week. Missing the train to Richmond would possibly mean missing the opportunity to attend medical school. Ritchie spent that entire night in coughing spasms with an uncontrollable fever. He was aware that his condition was severe. His fever was abnormally high. He had already been trained as a medical and surgical technician, so he was in a state of shock when he saw that the thermometer had reached over 106 degrees. The medical staff arrived to transport him by ambulance to have an updated chest x-ray done. Private Ritchie collapsed, and his condition deteriorated throughout the next 24 hours. Eventually, he was pronounced dead. His chart reading expired from double lobar pneumonia. Then the officer gave orders to prep him for the morgue. From there, George Ritchie tells of what he experienced during the time that he was pronounced dead.
From a subjective point of view, I'll have to tell you what I was experiencing. I knew I had missed my train. So I'm looking all around this rather dark room trying to find my uniform. Couldn't find it and decided that I didn't have any more time to waste there, so I come on out of this little room into the hall, and I'm crossing, getting ready to go outside when I see this ward boy coming down. I turned around to him to tell him to watch where he was going, and either he walked through me or I through him. Now this kind of shocked me, but when I had made up my mind I was going to get to Richmond, I was going to get to Richmond, so this didn't shock me. I go on out to the door, going to the outside. As soon as I got outside of that door, I'm suddenly up into the air, varying between 500 feet to 500 yards above the ground, going at an incredible speed. And finally I come to this large river. I see this city on the other side. I let down just in front of this white all-night cafe because I saw this civilian getting ready to go into the cafe, because I want to ask him if I'm heading in the right direction to get to Richmond.
What city is this? Excuse me, sir. You can just tell me what city this is? I'd really appreciate it. I was on my way to Richmond, and I seem to have gotten lost. Please.
This was the second time that another human being acted like they could neither hear nor see me. So I went over to lean against the guy wire of a telephone post, and my hand goes through the guy wire of the telephone post. Then it suddenly hit me that I had left something back there in that bed in Barkley, and I knew, because I was still using massive denial, that I'd better go back and get it. And I made the next, or the first most important discovery about being outside of your body, that you really go where your soul sincere desires. That time and space as you and I comprehended in this level doesn't exist, because in no time at all, I was right back there in front of the hospital. But I had made a very tragic mistake. I hadn't looked to see which ward I'd come out of, much less which room. I could see the soldiers lying there in the bed. And we take for granted we know what we look like, but we don't, because you see, we really have never seen ourselves from here up, except in the two-dimensional object we know as a mirror. And I saw a lot of soldiers that looked like me, but none of them had my fraternity ring on their finger. And I'm going through from ward to ward, room to room, trying to find me, and becoming more desperate. Finally went into this little isolation room, and lying over in the bed with a sheet pulled up over its head was this body. I realized it was me because I recognized my fraternity ring, and it even had a chip on the black onyx because it was a Phi Gamma fraternity ring, and there wasn't any mistaking. And I am utterly petrified. My massive denial has broken down. I suddenly realized that that body is dead. And I'm too young to die. I'm only 20 years of age. And then all of a sudden I thought the light at the head end of the room was getting brighter, but it was growing in an intensity of light to where if you turned on 1,000,000 welders' lights, you'd have some idea of the intensity. Three things happened at the exact same moment. Something deep inside of my spiritual being, not the corpse lying over in the bed, said, stand up, you're in the presence of the Son of God. At that exact same instant, out of this brilliant light stepped the most amazing being I have ever met, and those hospital walls virtually disappeared. I saw every single minute detail of my life, everything I had ever done in public, in private, from seeing my own cesarean section birth through my 20th year when I was pronounced dead. And he threw a question, what had I done with my life? And I thought, well, I'm an Eagle Scout. Immediately he shot back, that glorified you. And the same question again, what have you done with your life? Now over there in that realm, there is no such thing as hypocrisy, because one of the first things that you become aware of is that the other being is totally aware of what you think, so you can't think one thing and say another. There's no such thing as misunderstanding what he meant. And yet, here was a being that knew everything about me, and he totally accepted me and he totally loved me. Now that blew my mind. The next thing that took place was that Christ motioned for me to come over close to him. Now you can well imagine by this time I really do think that I've seen everything, but I'm finding out this is just the beginning, because suddenly he's opening up another realm to me. Now I wanted to stay there, but then I suddenly realized that the Christ was pulling me away and that we were heading back into this isolated room in Camp Barkley Station Hospital outside of Abilene, Texas.
Private George Ritchie's death was confirmed by Dr. Donald G. Francie, captain in charge during the time of these events. Dr. Ritchie's book, My Life After Dying, contains the elaborate account of the various realms of the afterlife that he claims to have experienced. It is a detailed look at one man's encounter with death and what he believes lies beyond.